It never dawned on me that somebody had to go about this process to change. Somebody had to fight for this, because it had always been a battle with barbers and beauticians.
It was extremely inspiring to hear her story and to know, the ripple effect that took place. Hundreds of jobs have been created just because of her efforts, just because she wanted to braid hair.
I didn't see when I thought she was crazy. Yet eventually, we'd have a law passed and then have people in Arkansas, Alabama, and Tennessee coming into Mississippi to be entrepreneurs. I didn't see that.
Welcome to Tupelo, Mississippi. It's the birthplace of Elvis and about 100 miles from Graceland. It was the first city electrified by the Tennessee Valley Authority. It's a town of trains, old cars, and history. Tupelo is home to about 35,000 people. A fifth of those live below the poverty line, and the median income is just $39,000 per year, about $11,000 less than the national average. But it's also the home of an inspiring woman.
I am Melanie Armstrong, and I own Naturally Speaking Natural Hair Care and Braiding Salon. I'm the first person in Tupelo to do professional hair braiding, and I am the first in the state of Mississippi to open up a professional hair braiding salon.
In the mid-90s, Melanie was working as an assistant director at a boys' home, but she wasn't happy in her job and began thinking about a new career.
I knew what I didn't want to do, but I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. So I had an experience in getting my own hair braided. When the stylist turned my chair and I saw my hair, a light bulb went off.
She was miserable on the way home. She couldn't turn her head, and I was laughing all the way back to Tupelo. But and then she says, I think I want to start braiding hair. And I thought, her hair is that tight. She must be actually done lost her mind. Her head is hurting that bad that she's actually done gone crazy. She wants to braid hair.
I decided that I was going to be something that I absolutely did not know how to do. So the first thing that I had to do was learn how to braid.
So Melanie learned. She found Talia Wajid, a hair braiding instructor in Atlanta, and traveled 300 miles to take her classes.
This literally became my full-time job, practicing the techniques that I had learned on my mannequin.
Well, she's working in the house at first. Oh, it was terrible. Yeah, hair everywhere, all over the house. There was hair in the clean laundry. Everywhere. Hair in your socks. You reach down and there's this crawling on me and it's hair. Everywhere.
It took me 6 months of practicing until I felt comfortable enough to work on a live person.
As Melanie mastered the art of hair braiding, she started seeing new opportunities, and her career goals blossomed. But when she reached out to the Mississippi State Board of Cosmetology, looking for a way to start her own business, she hit a wall.
It wasn't a matter of just going down, getting a business license, opening up a business, and just starting to do what now I felt comfortable enough to do. For a long time, I was making these phone calls to the Board of Cosmetology saying, I don't want to do cosmetology. All I want to do is braid hair.
Each time Melanie called the Board of Cosmetology, they told her that the only way they would allow her to legally operate a salon as a hair braider was to go to one of their approved schools and obtain a full cosmetology license.
It would have taken me about a year and a half, and it would have cost me roughly about $10,000. And at the time, I did not have that type of money. And I just thought that just didn't make sense.
In Mississippi at that time, Melanie could have gotten a license to become a tattoo artist, a hunting instructor, a firefighter, even a police officer in less time than it would have taken her to get a cosmetology license. And restrictions like these are actually common across the country. In 1996, 37 other states had similar requirements for aspiring hair braiders.
I braided my hair, my mom braided my hair, my sister's hair, so I didn't think, I would have never dreamed that there would be restrictions.
When I discovered the law was what the law was, the law that was in place, it did discourage me.
Ostensibly, laws are created by the state legislature, but really they come at the request of those who are already working in the industry. So in this case, cosmetologists got together and they went to the legislature and they lobbied for the creation of a license. Now that seems counterintuitive. Why would somebody want regulation of their industry? But really what it is they want to keep competitors out so that they can enjoy an economic benefit as a result.
Melanie wasn't the only person who began to question the rules. Just across the border in Memphis, natural hair icon Deborah Nuttall-Williams spent years fighting similar restrictions in Tennessee.
People after it hit the fan were afraid to move out and open salons. Why would I need a license for something that I've been doing all of my life?
It made no sense. Other hopeful braiders, like Nina Lyons, couldn't understand why they weren't allowed to earn a living.
Since I had graduated high school, I had learned more professional techniques for braiding, and I kept running into roadblocks.
It just brought back to memories that many things that we weren't able to do.
You had to be licensed, and the only way you could be licensed was to go to cosmetology school. And cosmetology schools didn't teach anything about natural hair or braiding.
I was paying taxes because I had a tax ID number. It was set up honestly. They just wanted control. And it wasn't fair because I paid taxes, I have a right to earn a living.
I was back and forward corresponding to the Mississippi Board of Cosmetology for several months, trying to find out what were my other options besides getting a full cosmetology license.
Melanie's persistence paid off. Eventually, the Board of Cosmetology reversed its earlier position and gave Melanie a different answer.
She said, well, there is something called a wigologist license that you can get. And because it involves the application of human and synthetic hair, that if you get this license, you'll be able to open up your own business braiding hair.
That was great news. But Melanie's struggles were far from over. It turned out that innovations in wig making had rendered wigology a dying art. So finding a teacher was next to impossible. Melanie searched for 2 more years before finding a school that would actually teach wigology. And when she eventually completed the course, her instructor said that she would be the last wigologist trained in Mississippi. But in 1998, with an obsolete wigology license in hand, Melanie had finally jumped through all of the State Board of Cosmetology hoops required to open her own salon.
We opened, naturally speaking, in September 1999, and by that time she had a growing clientele by that time.
I got people saying, well, good, I don't have to go to Memphis anymore to get my hair braided, or I don't have to go to Atlanta. I could quickly figure out that doing 1 client a day or 1 client every other day, and it's taken me 8 hours, I was not going to reach that American dream fast.
Naturally Speaking was a success. But now, Melanie had a new problem. She needed help to keep up with the demand for hair braiding in Tupelo. But she was the only person legally allowed to work as a hair braider in the salon.
I actually became pregnant with my 10-year-old, and I had been off from work for about 5 weeks, and I'm just holding the clients at bay. I'm coming back to work, just give me another week. I wasn't ready to come back to work.
Young women began coming to Melanie, seeking training and employment. She had no choice but to turn them away.
I'm telling people at this point the only way that they could get a job with me is that they would have to go and spend 1.5 years of their life and roughly about $10,000 to get a cosmetology license. No one took me up on that offer.
I would never been able to afford that because it's like a lot of money.
Now it's $17,000 to $20,000.
Holy cow.
Mm-hmm.
It was really unaffordable, and like I said, it was useless.
That would have been a complete waste of money, financial aid, in my 8 hours a day, or however that would have broken down. It would have just been pointless for me.
For a long time, I had just given up on the idea of even doing natural hair and braiding. because of the restrictions.
When you have a generation of people who have been raised not to dream and to accept life as it is, then what do you have in society? You have in society just a group of people who are just floating and consuming air and wasting time and wasting life away.
With nothing available, you know, my options ran out. And so I just basically gave up, went into furniture. I'm still a sewing machine operator in a furniture factory.
I began to feel like a criminal in a way because the workload did get overbearing at times. And I did allow a couple of people to come in and help me on Saturdays. I didn't feel good about that. I'm breaking the law because this person doesn't have a cosmetologist license. I didn't go in business to break laws. I went into business to be able to pursue what I wanted to do and to make an honest living.
Perhaps Melanie was a criminal, but she began to believe that the Board of Cosmetology was in the wrong. That's when Deborah Nuttall-Williams told Melanie about the Institute for Justice, a nonprofit legal foundation that helped her fight similar restrictions in Tennessee. After years of accepting the rules as they were, Melanie started to fight back.
Passion began to really grow for what was happening.
Melanie actually drove down to Jackson many, many times, lobbying in the state capitol to reduce or eliminate the cosmetology requirement for hair braiders.
I was learning what she was experiencing at the same time. And I thought it was going to be a long, drawn out, you know, several years, maybe more than that, try to challenge the law.
Classic case of David and Goliath. One woman versus big government.
The cosmetology industry was very popular and very powerful in this state, and they dictated the policy when it came to that industry.
Melanie and the Institute for Justice challenged the Board of Cosmetology policy with a lawsuit on the grounds that state law did not give them the authority to restrict hair braiders. But then, the Cosmetology Board responded to the suit by introducing new legislation that would have expanded their authority to force natural hair care professionals into their jurisdiction. Eventually, Melanie and her lawyers dropped their lawsuit and refocused their efforts on lobbying for their own legislation, which guaranteed that hair braiders across the state would be legally allowed to earn a living without Board of Cosmetology restrictions.
The cosmetologists resisted en masse to this very idea that she, as a hair braider, didn't need to be a fully licensed cosmetologist.
Literally for, I'm going to say at least a week, maybe 10 days of that 90-day session, the Capitol was consumed by cosmetologists, which was weird to us. I mean, not the likely group that's going to consume a legislature's time like that.
There were a lot of cosmetology students there present because they had been petitioning against this being passed. They were actually told, in order to receive your hours for today, be at the Capitol. Some of them had no idea why they were even there.
We visited the offices of the Mississippi State Board of Cosmetology in Jackson, hoping to find out their version of these events. Their representatives refused to comment or appear on camera.
They made a really big issue out of this and lost. But I just didn't sense where the government should intrude, number one, in something as culturally based and as traditionally handed down literally through multiple generations.
What the cosmetologist was proposing at the time would have placed too many restrictions on the hair braiders and would have really put most of them out of business in this state. And that was not the intent of members of my committee. We wanted to make sure that we had a free market system and that people would be able to make their trade based on the economy, the demand out there. And also we were concerned about public health and safety, and those hair braiders convinced us that they were not using chemicals that were very detrimental to the public at the time.
When we got the sunset provisions up on Cosmetology Board, then they had to come before the committee that I chaired at the time, which was the House Public Health and Human Services Committee. So I listened out. I heard the Institute of Justice position. I agreed with them. I thanked them very much for their advocacy and for coming forth. And I said, I, as chairman of this committee, am going to maintain that position. However, I'm a very transparent chairman, always have been. I do all of my work in the cold, gray light of day. Well, we had a hearing, and I bet 1,000 cosmetologists showed up. And they were not nice. Let's just leave it at that. In the end, the Senate chairman even came down pretty hard on me, and I said, look, it's just real simple. I do not give a damn whether there's a cosmetology law in the state of Mississippi or not, so don't you come back to my office. It is over. Do you understand? I will not put braiding in the law. And that was the end of it.
My whole struggle had gone on for like 7 years. But I pushed through. It was just like I would just keep asking questions, and the next thing you know, a question would lead to another answer.
Governor Barbour signed a law that essentially got rid of the cosmetology requirement for hair braiders, but created a very modest registration requirement for hair braiders. So if you want to be a hair braider in Mississippi, you fill out a little paperwork, you spend a little bit of money, something like $25, $30, and then you're a registered hair braider in Mississippi. Now the great thing was, when they made that change, 300 people signed up as hair braiders in the state of Mississippi when that change went into effect.
I knew very then that was history being made.
I felt great. And once it had passed into law, well, one in particular young lady that was standing next to me, she said, "So what just happened?" And I looked at her and I said, "You can have your cousin or somebody come braid in your salon." And so she looked at me and she said, "My cousin?" She said, "Me."
With the law changing, that gives people opportunities, and and that's a great thing.
I was a young lady, 3 children, public assistance in public housing, and I was able to come off of welfare and buy my first home, my first car, and open a business.
People in northern Mississippi need this, and it puts Tupelo in a place where people aren't overlooking it anymore or saying, okay, I can't go there, I need to go to Memphis to get my hair done.
I noticed some people, like from our neighboring states where the law has not changed, they moved stateside to set up a salon to take advantage of that law.
It's just a foot over from Tennessee, so why not open up down there and not be hassled? And I was already registered through Mississippi to braid hair, what I was trying to actually get Tennessee to do 10 years prior.
It gave me the reason to want to be a business owner. It was not a dream anymore. I got to actually step out and do it.
When the law changed, it opened up a new hope for me that maybe someday I can.
Hope. Everything was changing. For the first time in Mississippi history, professional hair braiding was a legitimate career option. Melanie hired Nina Lyons, Gina Ivey, Jackie Spates, Shirley LeJure, Christian Westbrook, and others to work with her at Naturally Speaking Salon. Her victory created a ripple of opportunity as new salons popped up across the state, while other braiders worked out of their homes, no longer restricted by the Board of Cosmetology. As her story spread, Melanie became an inspiration to members of her church and to aspiring entrepreneurs throughout her community. It wasn't just about hair braiders anymore. Now, Melanie could see a new vision for how her success could make a positive difference in Tupelo.
When you have been liberated, or when you have found a sense of freedom, and you come across people that are not, you want to make sure that they find the freedom that you did, that they find their purpose and begin to feel their purpose as well.
It's been extremely rewarding for what we've seen, the lives that have changed, over the years, and the lives that are continuing to change.
Pastor Kevin and Melanie, they really pull things out of you and let you see it. You know, like, this is what you can do this.
If I had not have met Kevin and Melanie, I do not think that I would have the belief in myself as an entrepreneur, just because I didn't have those influences around me before I came here.
It's my goal, you know, to one day be that business owner, be that jeweler, not to have to get up every day and punch a clock for someone else, to work toward having something for yourself.
I get the question all the time, you really make a living and this is all you do? You know, and then also I always am asked, who is the owner? I'm the owner.
If I'm using the gifts and the skills that God has given me to prosper someone else's business and make them money, why can't I do that for myself? You know, and when I realized that, I was like, there's more. You know, there's more to this. You know, there's more on the other side of the fence, and I want to know what it is.
Pastor Kevin always says you can't do what you can't see. If you have not been around it, if you haven't grown up in that kind of environment where people are constantly empowering you or constantly saying something to strengthen you, you're not going to go after them.
I'm a woman of faith, and it's a struggle being a single parent, but when you want to make a living doing what you love, but you don't know how to do it, and then you don't have the support system. A lot of these young ladies don't have people to tell them, you can do it. I believe in you, you know. Some of them just have so much negativity surrounding them, and they have no hope.
You know, there's so many handouts, and you just stand in line and get them. In some apartment complexes, even in my area, 4 generations of, you know, mother and grandmother and great-grandmother and great-great-grandmother, and everyone's just content.
In my community, we do not have no one starting that, not a black, African-American person, period, starting their own business. Because I come from a small town, and we just were taught to go and get an education and get your butt away from there. And it's just nice to see a African-American female doing something for themselves, who started their own business and stuff.
A lot of what's being pushed is go to school, get an education, to get a job. And what I find very little being pushed is, no, what about being an entrepreneur? What about that dream that's in you that you can create a living for yourself?
But successfully creating a living for yourself through entrepreneurship takes hard work. And sometimes the roadblocks make it impossible. Melanie's experiences aren't unique. There are more restrictions in America than most people realize. Across the country, at least 1 in 3 businesses need a state-granted license just to operate. And it's not just doctors and lawyers. It's barbers and beauticians, interior decorators, even florists in some states have to obtain expensive and unnecessary licenses just to be allowed a chance at earning a living doing what they love. 28 states still require a full cosmetology license to work as a hair braider. These laws can be discouraging, and sometimes they create a trap that forces people into welfare or into jobs they'd never take if the restrictions were lifted. People like Josette Bogard, who trained and worked with Melanie for 3 years in Mississippi before moving to North Carolina, where she's legally prohibited from using her skills to earn a living.
Being in North Carolina, and I think the laws here is different than it is back home. If you don't have a license here, you can't really do anything. If I wouldn't get in trouble, I mean, I would post flyers and go to different salons and tell them that I know how to braid hair. I had my certificate when I was in Mississippi. Come by and I can do your hair.
I would really hope and encourage that they change the law. And then someone just needs to step up and just be a Melanie.
What I would tell other states is just get over it and quit passing so damn many laws that regulate human experience and human tradition and opportunity to advance. That's what I would tell them. Just get over it.
In Mississippi, we face so much stuff, and one more law to stop people from having a job, it's just not fair.
And you know, you think hair is something that's minor, but I think, particularly in Black women's life, that's something that's huge.
I love doing hair, actually braiding hair. I love it. If the restrictions were lifted, I'll be so excited. I will go apply for a job right now at a salon.
For so long, we were held back. The walls were up. There were obstacles and blocks to stop us from operating as a salon or even in a salon. But now that those walls have been torn down and we don't have those laws that's working against us, then step out and take advantage of it. Any opportunity that you can get to use your talent, do it.
This whole experience has even broadened my vision, and I feel just a sense of just empowerment. I feel even more empowered, and I feel that there is all of those other things that I still want to do, that I'm going to do them, and there's nothing that's going to stop me.